I really look up to you and Heather's relationship as just kind of like something that I would strive to in my own relationship. How do you have a successful long marriage? Do you have any advice?
Yeah, I've got a ton of advice, but I have to be careful because our situation is so unusual that, because it's my life, I can't really say how much of it is applicable to other people's situations. But I would say things that have worked for us. One, we got together quite early, which I used to think was an unfortunate fact. I now don't think of it that way at all. I now actually think it's an asset, a tremendous one, because what it means is that you kind of grow up together, and so you come to understand the world in familiar terms, and you build up a kind of trust that is very powerful when things go crazy. So there's that. I mean, there's really one thing above everything else. And every time I say it, somebody cringes. You should not consider marrying anybody who doesn't have a sense of humor about themselves. And the reason that people cringe when I say that is that it implies that lots of people just really aren't an acceptable partner for marriage, which is unfortunately true. We should all be induced to have a sense of humor about ourselves because, frankly, we're all absurd. I mean, heck, we're apes, and we're walking around most of the time not thinking about that fact, but it's nonetheless true and has profound implications for what we are and how we behave and all that. So I think the most useful thing is to recognize that your conscious mind is not the same thing as you. You contain your conscious mind plus a whole bunch of other stuff that you're not really in touch with. And, I frequently find myself in a situation where my defects are getting in the road of something in our relationship. For example, my chronic disorganization is disrupting Heather's desire to have a house where stuff is where she can find it, for example. And the funny thing is, my conscious mind is on her side. There's apparently some part of me that isn't, but it's not my conscious mind. And if she can see that actually it's not that I want to be a problem in this regard. In fact, I would go well out of my way not to be if I could figure out how to pull it off. Right? That just removes the tension from the thing, right? Then we're talking about why, what developmental piece of my history caused me not to be able to develop that skill. That's a much better conversation to be having than why are you such a jerk who doesn't care whether I can live in our house, right? So having a sense of humor about yourself, recognizing that every one of us is a mystery, even to ourselves, and that your partnership with somebody involves you being partnered with the part that you and they understand and the part that neither of you understands, and that's a funny scenario to be trapped in, and you better know how to laugh about it.
That's great advice. I think it's so nice that you and Heather do the podcast together because there's a lot of people out there who are just like these talking heads who have these strong opinions online, but when you see somebody next to their wife, you kind of look at them differently, like, oh, wow, somebody can really tolerate this person through thick and thin. And I recently saw Jordan Peterson a couple times live, and it's really nice. He comes out there, or his wife introduces him, and she's super sweet, and he's kind of like this, he has many different sides, but it's nice to see him getting the questions from his wife. You see him in a different light than when you typically see him on those like debate stages when he's kind of, there's about 1 million videos on YouTube saying Jordan Peterson destroys this feminist or Jordan Peterson destroys this woke kid. And then it's nice to see him in this like pleasant dynamic with a woman. So, yeah.
Well, I think you're exactly right to focus on this. And I think the problem is it's surprisingly easy to show a false side to the world. So lots of people do it. And when you do see somebody with their spouse, and the spouse is not quietly sitting there not saying anything, but you're seeing them interact, or even better, you're seeing them disagree, maybe even over something important, right? Then, well, how exactly would you fake that? Right? I mean, and I do believe you don't see everything on the podcast, but what you see is absolutely accurate. That is how we are. And, I would say the same thing is true if you saw us with our kids. Is it perfect? No. But you would see there's no tension around things, right? We're all the flawed human beings that we are, but we genuinely love each other and appreciate each other and are frustrated by each other and find some of each other's jokes funny and not other ones. And anyway, the point is, the difficulty of faking a persona is 1,000th of what it would be to fake a family. You can't really fake it.